Do you know that gurgling sound of water you just heard? It's the gentle melody of healing. The water within us is also a part of nature's water, and when you feel the harmony between your body and Mother Nature, you will gradually heal. Now, let's begin this episode of Chillify. Why do some people cry easily while others don't? Some seem to be able to keep a poker face in all situations, while others burst into tears even when casually scrolling through a short video on social media. I myself am a crybaby. Do you feel the same way? Every month, I always have a period of chaotic emotions, getting angry over trivial things, then sulking and retreating into my shell to cry at night. I'm so sad today, come comfort me. Remember to bring bubble tea and some steamed bread. After crying my heart out and finally calming down, I look in the mirror and think, I'm still pretty, aren't I? Even when sad, I'm cute. I see myself in that description. Sometimes, right after crying, my tear-filled eyes look into the mirror, and I find it strange, then suddenly burst out laughing. Other times, I might be laughing heartily while watching TikTok videos of cats playing around, but then I scroll to a video of an elderly woman living alone in a street corner, and I immediately start crying. In those moments, I wonder why my mood changes so erratically. Am I sad or happy in the end? And when I'm happy, am I truly happy? Why do I cry so easily? Do I not know how to control my emotions and behavior? According to clinical health psychologist Melissa Chiori, crying cannot be defined as right or wrong. In other words, being a crybaby isn't necessarily a bad thing. People don't just cry when they're sad. Tears are a complex human bodily reaction. Unexpected warmth or overwhelming happiness can also bring tears to our eyes. We often assume that tears are an expression of grief. Most of us hate crying and feel terrible when we do, because when you cry, especially for a long time or intensely, you'll notice your heart and lungs working abnormally. With each sob, your heart and lungs constrict, your breath lengthens and is held for a while, not providing enough oxygen to your blood. That makes us feel awful. However, that's how it feels before and during crying. After crying, it's different. Up to 80% of people feel better after a good cry. Chiori also explains that crying can be a form of therapy. Some people share that after crying, they can solve problems better and move forward. To explain why you might cry more easily than others, here are a few reasons. Firstly, certain personality types make some people more prone to tears than others. Specifically, according to a 2016 study in the journal Emotion, review highly empathetic individuals, also known as highly sensitive people, who tend to be anxious or self-doubting, cry more often. Those in this group are highly sensitive to their surroundings, including the emotions of others, and are easily influenced by others' opinions and comments. Additionally, crying easily can stem from hormonal changes in the body. Dr. Giss of Wellcome University also confirms that hormones play a role as chemical messengers controlling bodily functions like hunger, reproduction, emotions, and mood. Anything that causes hormonal shifts, such as premenstrual syndrome, postpartum periods, or menopause, can make women cry more easily. Furthermore, easy crying can also result from childhood trauma. Your childhood environment can influence how much you cry. Frequent or sudden crying can also occur if you've suppressed too many emotions from past situations. A new study from the U.S. National Institute of Medicine has shown that adults who experience childhood trauma tend to cry more and are more likely to develop psychological disorders such as depression, anxiety disorders, or other mental health issues. There are also some gender-related reasons listed here to explain why some people cry more easily than others. According to the 2016 Emotion Review study, women cry 2 to 4 times more than men. Dr. Gelatin also shares that in society, women shedding tears are often more accepted than men, so they don't feel the need to hide their emotions. Hormones also play a significant role. According to the APA, male testosterone seems to inhibit crying. Conversely, women have higher levels of certain hormones, making them more prone to tears. Cultural norms also make it harder for men to express their emotions. If a little girl falls, her mother's comforting words would usually be, "Look, dear, don't cry, be a good girl." But for a little boy, it might be, "You're a boy, a little scratch and you're already crying, be strong." At first glance, these sound like words of encouragement, but in reality, these seemingly normal words put shackles on the souls of many young boys, making them afraid to express their true feelings. This instills in young boys the notion that crying is something a boy shouldn't do. So, with these reasons, it seems we can understand why some people are more emotional and prone to tears than others. It could be due to their sensitive personality, hormonal changes, childhood trauma, or gender-based societal prejudices. However, stating these reasons doesn't mean that people who don't cry or always maintain a cold, calm demeanor in many situations are not sensitive, don't have hormonal changes, or haven't experienced childhood trauma. In fact, I know many people who, no matter how big the problem or how difficult the situation, manage to endure it alone. I know a friend who, after breaking up from a 5-year relationship, remained calm. Her daily work continued as usual, without any disruption. I also know a friend who sat quietly holding his mother's hand on her hospital bed until she passed away, without shedding a single tear. I also know a friend who worked 14 hours a day. In the morning, he fell off his bike. In the afternoon, his clothes got ruined. He was scolded by his boss at work. And when he got home at midnight, he sat alone in his empty room, just sitting there in silence, staring blankly, his face showing no emotion whatsoever. I didn't see them cry, so I called them the non-criers. But I didn't know what that female friend went through that night. She cried so hard, her eyes swelled up. She cried until she couldn't breathe. But the next morning, she still put cold spoons on her eyes and applied makeup, putting on a radiant face as if nothing had happened. I also didn't know that my male friend didn't shed a single tear because he didn't want his mother to see him weak. People say that hearing is the last sense to go when someone dies, so he tried to suppress his pain tightly so that no sound would escape. Who knew that after bringing his mother to her final resting place, he went home, sat in his mother's room, looked long and hard at a photo of them together, and cried like a child. I also didn't know that the friend who had experienced so many terrible things that day had cried a lot, even hurting himself, but now he no longer feels like crying. Too much pressure has made him emotionally numb. Now he just quietly endures and keeps pushing forward. Over time, he's lost his emotional connection. He can't even recognize or name his own emotions. Not crying has become an unconditional reflex. Children suffer less than adults in part because they cry easily. They are innocent and more human than adults. Adults, however, sometimes suppress, restrict, and endure, becoming increasingly indifferent, calmly functioning like emotionless machines. It's important to acknowledge that crying is a natural reflex that only humans possess. It's an indispensable part of every person's body and a highlight in the human emotional spectrum. However, if you frequently cry alone, cry suddenly, or cry for no apparent reason, and you start to feel unable to control your own emotions, that's when something more serious might be happening. The same goes for not crying easily. This is not a sign that you are tough. On the contrary, it can actually be detrimental to your mental health, especially if you constantly try to suppress your emotions. When the body faces strong emotions, the mind can override reason, and then tears will fall. If your crying frequency increases abnormally and you cannot control your tears, mood, or behavior, it's very likely that your body is under excessive stress or even showing signs of depression. Dr. Show states that if in the past you weren't someone who cried often, but now you cry a lot, sometimes laugh uncontrollably, or get angry without reason, then you should pay attention to emotional dysregulation. It could be due to brain trauma, such as a stroke, organ damage, dementia, or many other reasons. Behind every tear is a long story that outsiders can never truly understand. There's nothing to be ashamed of in crying. If you're tired or sad, just cry. When no words can express the sorrow, emotions can flow with tears to lighten your heart. But I hope you observe your crying episodes to recognize any signs of instability and seek help in time. Don't cry alone, dear friend, and don't endure too much by yourself. You can do anything you want, but please don't suppress your pain and cry alone. Even though it's a release, if the pain remains tightly clutched in your heart, no one can truly understand you. You deserve to be loved more than that, and those glistening tears should be reserved for things that are truly worth cherishing.